Good morning, St. Louis. It is May 15th, 9:38. This is the Budget and Public Employees Committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Present.
Alderman Devoti.
Present.
Chair Aldrich.
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Sanye. We have 4 present. We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we don't have any approval of the minutes. Item number 4 is board bills for review, which the committee is reviewing board bill number 1, which is the St. Louis City FY26 fiscal budget. There's no resolution to review, and for committee discussion today, we will hear from the Streets Department, Communication Division, Personnel Department, and we'll take a break, and then we will come back at 1:30 to resume with the airport. With that being said, we can jump straight into it. Today we have our interim director from Streets who is here, and the different commissioners that is under him. So Director, please come on up, state your name, and if you want to, you can introduce the amazing triple threat team that you have behind you. If you could just speak into the mic. First you got to make sure it's turned on. There's a button right where your index finger is. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Hello.
There we go.
Good morning. I'm Jim Solman. I'm the Director of Streets Interim. With me today, I got Kent. I know these guys. That's a shame. I know them. They were here when I was there 19 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And Randy and Justin, and that's it.
All right.
The tow guys are not. They're busy doing other stuff right now.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go with 510. You want me to start with the budget? I don't know how you do it now. I know how I used to, but I don't know how to do it now.
Okay, well, if you just want to also, fun fact, I heard you also, you've been around for a while. You even hired our clerk, Miss Ora, over there, way back when.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Welcome back to the.
Where's Paul Payne? He's the guy that should be here.
Yeah, well, we have Paul's like our, he's like the celebrity. He comes in.
Yeah, well, he took all our money. That's where I want to get a hold of Paul.
Okay, well, well, you got Jim back there who's the deputy director of budget, so you're mad at him.
If Paul's not here, I can go after you? Okay.
Yeah.
See you in a minute.
So yeah, just you can, if you want to, you can give an overview of the budget, and then if you want to call up each person in the department, since maybe Toe's not here, cover that. But
I can do that.
Just proceed however you like.
Well, okay, 510 is the director's office. The big problem there is a sewer lateral program. We do 600 jobs a year, and we got 600 jobs waiting to be done, but we don't do, how many a year we do? 600, 500, 455. And the problem is the prices of the contractors are going up. So this year we're probably, we need about another $500,000 in there to fulfill for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
That's in 510. Traffic is 513. They changed that number? No.
If
511
you
is,
could also, Commissioner.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean Director. Just make sure you speak it to the mic. I see you very animated and moving, but as long as you just keep the mic.
When I'm in front of a mic, I want to sing, and this is not the appropriate place to sing.
Yeah.
So remind me, okay?
No problem.
Okay.
If you need to take it off to move, however you want
Okay.
to get jiggy with it, go ahead.
Then I will sing. No. 513 is, or 511 is traffic. They have some problems. Once again, they get 500 streetlights get knocked down a year, and they're only budgeted for 250. So at the end of the year, you're going to see a lot of brownout spouts in the city of St. Louis. I'm just giving an overview. I'll let these guys, if you want to answer a question, we'll get these guys up here. 513 is a total. We had some information the other day. We had to shut down our auction. I don't know why, but that came from above. So we don't auction cars off. This is the second week in a row. We got about 150 cars on the street right now, derelicts, that aren't going to be picked up because we got no place to store them. So I don't know if they're working on getting a new place or not, but you're going to see some derelict cars, I think, in your neighborhood before this is all over. 514 is the street division. I talked about the sewer, that's sewer lateral. There's no problem with streets, except they're short of salt money, they're short of asphalt money, it's contract money. Not contract money. I'll let them talk. And the last one is refuse. You short, aren't you, Randy? It's another people problem. They collect, I'm working on a program in refuse that'll save the city about $1 million a year. And it'll free up, I promise you, if this gets implemented, you will see no trash in alleys. None. I want to eliminate.
You want to say that again on the record?
On the record, yeah. I'll be gone before it happens. Yeah, there won't be any, what we're going to do, what we'd like to do, and we really should, is we want to eliminate the recycling dumpsters in alleys. Now, 60% of what we collect in recyclables has got to go to landfill anyway. We're paying $185 a ton for stuff that we're going to send to the landfill.
Bless you.
God bless you. And then, well, we could only be paying $40 a ton. We did this once before, I think during COVID, and it was very successful. All of the recycles we collected were recyclable. Where in the dumpsters now, 60% of this recycles are trash. Only 40% is getting recycled. That would free up about 25 drivers that used to go collect all of them. Now I just need 1 or 2 drivers to go to these 30 spots. That frees up 20 plus people to work on the dumpsters and make sure they're all empty all the time, guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Yep, I'll quit my job.
Again? Did you quit the first time?
I retired the first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you look up stupid in the dictionary, there's a picture of me there, so.
Well, we're gonna
Let me go get you, who wants to go traffic?
But before we do it, real quick, you're totally fine. I do like that. I actually agree. I do think it's probably smarter to do just a one route because we need to do a better job educating people on what recycling is. But I've also heard the majority of the recycling is actually not kind of recycling, but it may be more efficient.
It isn't, because if we take the recycling truck, we take it to the contractor who's going to recycle it. He says it's contaminated, so it's got to go with the regular stuff. So the recycled stuff that we're collecting out, much of it is already going to the landfill. This is just going to stop us or save us $140 a ton. Out of 10,000 tons, that's a lot of money.
That is. Okay, we're just going to go with hear from each department and then to ask questions. So since you're up here on the streets, kind of just the office of the streets, did anybody have any questions for the director, starting with Alderman Browning?
Wow, I am very, very excited to hear that you are considering doing recycling drop-off points instead of the dumpsters in the alleys. I don't think it is common knowledge among our residents that most of the recyclables do not get recycled. And I'll just speak to my experience. When I'm going to throw my recycling in that dumpster and I open it and I see plastic bags and non-recyclables and other things in there, I already know that dumpster is not going to get recycled. And that's so frustrating because you know all this effort you did to save your recyclables and take them somewhere so that they get recycled is wasted because some neighbor didn't read the instructions on the dumpster that's on every dumpster. So the recycling drop-off points to me have a very significant advantage in that the people who go to use them will be very intentionally sorting their recycling and making sure that everything goes to the place that it's supposed to go.
Exactly.
And that everything is recyclable.
Exactly.
Meaning that we should see an increase in the number of items that are actually recycled if people make these trips, which those of us who care about this issue will make the trip. So I am excited about that. I think that's a good solution. And the other benefit, as you mentioned, is the ability for us to have more drivers out on the routes, picking up the trash, which, as we know, is often not getting picked up because of a lack of drivers. This is literally, they're running 2 routes right now, one for trash and one for recycling. And this
One for yard waste.
And one for yard waste as well, so 3 routes. And this will cut that number down and allow us to really make sure delivering these city services that people are paying for and that they expect. This has health benefits for our city. I could go on and on, but this is an exciting development.
Good.
I have a few different questions about different departments, and so I'm just going to kind of try to work my way through this. And I apologize for the time it's going to take, but I do want to make sure that this department is getting the money it needs and that we are getting exactly the services that our people deserve. The annual operating plan on page 140 has a personnel decrease in the debris crew. Now, the debris crew, we've heard from when forestry was in front of us, is responsible for picking up debris on vacant properties, as well as illegal dumping, which we know to be a very large problem in this city. We see in this budget that 20 positions is going down to 14 with a reduction from FY25 to 26 in funds. I'm wondering how that's going to impact our ability to pick up illegal dumping and debris in vacant properties.
Well, if we change the recycling program, that won't be a problem.
All right. If you come up, just state your first and last name and your role within the department, Mr. Flake.
It is Kent Flake, Commissioner of Streets. So we changed some things in our budget this year. Those people, as you can see from our overall personnel schedule, actually went up a little bit. So we just kind of tweaked those debris people and put them over in, I think, the administrative account instead because they are supervisors. There's no difference. Overall, there's been a difference. We've had this program for about 8 or 10 years. And originally when it came over to us, there was 21 people. It was also pre-COVID, pre-everything else. And we weren't 35% short at city streets. Now we're 35% short, and there's about a dozen people currently working the program. And it's been that way for 5 or 6 years. This budget does not change any of that. That's once we get more people in the door, we'll get that back up to 20 people. And we're working it.
Mr. Flake, can you speak more into the mic, please? Thank you.
If you need to hold it to get it a little closer, you're a tall guy, so.
I don't know where I was, but yeah. So long story short, it's not changing the number of people in the program itself. It's just kind of moving those people
It's more
on
reflective.
paper around.
Just to be clear, it's more reflective of the numbers that you're able to hire for right now. There's no, so like from FY25 to FY26, there should not be a decrease in the number of people going out and collecting that.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that answer. In a similar vein, I'm seeing that under the revenue book on page 10, the blocking account. First of all, I'm wondering, what is blocking?
That is our revenues for permits. So we have an excavation permit, we have a blocking permit, driveway permit, sidewalk permit, many other permits. So that is the blocking account itself, which means anytime you want to put a dumpster out and block a curb lane, anytime you would be a crane where you're going to put it out and block 4 lanes of traffic while we hoist an air conditioner on a roof today. That would be what blocking permits typically include. I haven't directly looked at the revenue myself, so I'm not sure. I'd have to look at those numbers. But
Okay, yeah, because my next question is going to be, in FY22, we had $1.4 million that came in from blocking permits. That decreased to about a little under $1 million in FY23, and then FY24, FY25, and FY26, it's dropped down to about $600,000. So we're seeing quite the reduction there in the revenue that we're pulling in from these permits. Are we seeing fewer blocking permits being issued, or is there an issue with collecting the fees for that?
there's not an issue with collecting the fees directly. There very well could be people blocking without getting permits, which is obviously possible. I am not sure what the reason for that downtake would be over the last 5 or 6 years. The other thing to look at there would be also that our excavation permits include blocking. So they might have been doing permits a little differently 6, 7 years ago. So if I want to dig a hole, I can add on blocking an extra drive lane or park lane versus having 2 permits. I know some people historically pulled 2 permits, one for the excavation and one for blocking, which doesn't make any sense since our excavation can include blocking an entire street if you need to. But yeah, that's apparently just a downtick that we could look into.
Yeah, I think we should look into that because I want to make sure that we're getting the money in that we can so that we can put it back into the services. But what I'm like, for instance, in street excavation, this year, the estimate is 0. So, and it's not like it's been that much in past years either. I mean, it's 25,000 in FY22, and it's decreased up and down, but always under 20,000. And then this year it's 0. So I want to make sure that like when we are issuing these permits, we're getting the proper fees collected so that we can put that money back into repairing our streets. And also just hold these people accountable, because if we don't collect the proper fee, then people do feel like they can go out and do this with impunity, and then we end up with some really poorly maintained streets.
So I'll have to look at the blocking. Like I said, I don't have that sheet, I don't think, in front of me. The excavation is different. The excavation pretty much died off in 2019. In 2019 is when, first of all, our employees went way down. I think at one point we were down to almost 85 out of 160. So the first thing that excavation cost is what contractors used to pay us to asphalt top their utility cuts. So a contractor goes out and digs a hole, they would concrete it to 2 inches below grade, and then we would go top that with asphalt. That died in 2019 and has continued to be that way since then. With the new restoration ordinance, it'll stay that way because we are not topping anything with asphalt. So it was essentially the asphalt bill for those contractors, which we haven't done since 2019 except for very few circumstances. But that's why that account is 0.
Thank you. Yeah, and to be clear, there is another street excavation permit line, which in FY22 was 700,000, and now it's reduced down to about 350 for FY26. Again, about half of what it used to be. I understand under the new utility coordination bill that we passed last year that we've pushed a lot of that responsibility over to the utility companies to do that work. And so they may not be charged for that. However, I expect there would still be a fee to dig into our streets just because that is damage to our streets. And as much as you try to repair something that you've damaged, you can never put it back to the way it was, a freshly paved street. On that note, I also want to ask about that ordinance, because part of that ordinance said that if a utility company tears up more than 20% of a street on a single block, I think was the measure, that they would be responsible for paving the whole street. I haven't seen that implemented yet. However, I do suspect that there are cases in the city where that is happening, and I want to make sure that we are holding them to that account, because otherwise we are spending our money, our tax money, to pave these streets only to have them torn up. In some cases, in my ward, I had something torn up literally 2 months after it was freshly paved, which I feel like is an insult to the work you do, because they did such a nice job paving the street and it looked beautiful, and to see these holes poured into it, and this was before utility coordination, thankfully, or not, unfortunately, I should say. So the repair job was what they had been doing, which was not great. So this is just, it's an inefficiency in our city that we need to address, and I want to make sure that pay special attention to that going forward.
Absolutely.
Moving on, I think that's all I have for you, Kent, at this time. Thank you again for those answers. I really appreciate that, and also just again the work that you all do. It's going to be 90 degrees outside today, and I know that the workers that go out and are on the streets are operating hot equipment in hot weather, and so it's not an easy job. I'm always appreciative of the job you all do, And again, I want to make sure that we are getting everything we need to your department so that we can really just take pride in our streets and sidewalks and do a good job for our residents. So I really, really do appreciate you.
I'm not sure if I mentioned, Ken, when I got here, we had over 1,000 potholes on record. As of this morning, we have 53. That's because Kent is focused on what needs to be done. He did it.
Excellent, excellent. If I could turn to traffic and lighting at this time.
The traffic commissioner had, Lenny Ephraim, he had a death in family, so he can't be here. Justin can answer most of the questions. So when he can't answer, we'll get back to you.
Very, very sorry to hear that, but
Yeah, we too.
we appreciate. Let's see. Okay, so there were several positions that were requested in traffic and lighting division that were not funded this go around. I was wondering, what is the priority? What could be the most use to you? And if we can find some money, what would be your priority position to be funded this year?
Well, what we did request this year was 2 additional painters, and that is to address the shortcomings we're having with a lot of handwork, the additional micromobility markings on pavement that we're not addressing now. So, I mean, that would be a critical position for us. All engineering is critical for us.
Sorry, when you say micro-mobility markers.
Like bike paths, walkways, roundabouts, everything we're painting now outside of travel lanes.
Would that include crosswalks?
Yes.
Okay. So a crucial position, in my opinion. I think a lot of requests I receive is all there is about crosswalks that have faded. I think the challenge with crosswalks too is that they are in intersections, which are often where people, where the places where get the most wear, right? So cars are turning, their tires are pulling the paint off the pavement, and that paint fades rather quickly because of all the activity that we get. Is the streets, or is the traffic and lighting division moving towards more permanent paint, or is that something that like we don't really have the budget for at this time?
So 2 years ago, we actually did switch paints. We switched to a new waterborne-based high build system that is designed to last longer and build back upon itself with every coat. So the plan here is to make it better. It's just getting caught up to the travel lanes and getting all the handwork, which is a slower process than getting a travel lane done in a truck. So the more hands I have, or we have, the more work we get done for you.
Okay, that's I think a really important thing. I mean, we know that paint doesn't really protect, but people still can drive over it, right? But I think it is helpful to alerting drivers to the existence of pedestrians, people on bicycles, people with mobility devices. It signals that they are in an area where pedestrians or these other people might be present. And so
Sure.
That's important for us to stay on top of. On a different note, I noticed in the revenue book that damages for property, again, in FY22, it was about $140,000. It's again fluctuated a lot, but it's dropped significantly, and now it's estimated $0 in FY26. I personally have several light posts in my ward that have been damaged by, I don't know what else to call it other than reckless driving. Are we not charging people when they do damage to our city?
No, we absolutely are.
Okay.
We charge them for damages to light poles. We charge contractors when they tear up our underground infrastructure. Most of the problems with damage to light poles is the fact that a lot of the cars may be uninsured, stolen, and we received the police report if PD was even called. If we don't have a police report to work off, there's nothing for us to claim.
So this does require some coordination with the police in order to make sure we retrieve money for the damages.
Yeah, I mean, every time we're called out, we call PD, but if there's no car there or no driver there, when we get there and we get a police report back without enough information to pursue billing, there's not a whole lot we can do. We've had citizens say the car was stolen, wasn't me, not going to pay it. I mean, I don't blame them.
I understand the difficulty of it, and I think, Jim, you had said there was how many posts knocked down?
We get 600 a year?
600 a year.
500 on average.
500 a year.
Yeah.
And we're able to replace how many?
In the past, we've replaced the whole 500. There is an increase in price over the last couple of years. It's making it much more difficult to buy 500 poles. The increase this year is substantial. And we haven't seen the final numbers yet, but we're projecting, let me find his notes. I believe it was 719,000 that we're going to need to purchase poles, which is an increase over last year's.
Would you say it's becoming a bigger problem that things are getting knocked down?
No, 19 years ago when I was here, same amount of poles got knocked.
Same problem. I just know cars are getting bigger. People are driving a little faster. You see, I mean, pedestrian deaths were a record high last year. So it wouldn't surprise me to hear that there was more property damage. But so I am confused though. Why does this say 0 for damages property line?
I can refer that to my commissioner when I talk to him and get the committee an answer, but that one I don't know. The damages account, in my understanding, is something we are recently been allowed to spend out of, so I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Great, okay. Looking at a couple other items, and I'm not sure who to direct this to, but let me flip to the right page here. Sorry, these books are huge and they all get confused sometimes. If that's the one I want, okay. So, line item detail on page 234, we have unfunded professional services line. If that was funded, what would that be used for?
So professional services would refer to the engineering consultants we're using. Currently, there is one engineer on staff in the traffic division, and that's our Commissioner Len Epham. So we use outside consultants for a lot of our timing, our traffic studies and everything else, lane configurations, speed bumps. Yeah, that goes through a consultant also. Yeah.
Does that add time and costs to use a consultant rather than have somebody on staff doing that?
It would clearly be, in my opinion, but just my opinion, cheaper to do in-house, but traditionally we haven't been able to fill these positions.
Haven't been able to fill them, is that what you say? Okay, and that likely has to do with pay, the speed at which personnel moves, so a lot of issues going into the hiring there, I'm aware.
I would say a lot of it's got to do with the starting salary for an engineer.
Yeah, if people go through the trouble of getting an engineering degree, they're going to be able to find higher paying jobs out there.
Correct.
So we've got to take a look at that and make sure that we are attracting good talent and also paying people what they're worth, because yeah, I don't want to pay an engineer or even, say we're going to try to hire an engineer for something that they wouldn't work for otherwise. You're not going to get the best engineers when you pay under market.
That philosophy can be applied to every single position in the city.
Yeah, well aware, but
That's editorial.
this is the issue that I really care about. So I'm dialing down on this. You're absolutely right. An issue that this whole city deals with. On page 245 of the line item detail, there's a budget item, and I've never seen this before in other departments, and I'm wondering what this is. It just says pass through to capital fund. It's just 60,000, but I've just never seen that before, and I'm wondering what is that line item?
What's the account number?
700012.
It's not on my list of notes my commissioner gave me, so I can refer back to him and the accountant and see and look into it and have Len get you an answer.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let's see. My next question is for towing, and you said towing's not able to be here, but
I had an editorial comment about traffic.
yeah, please do.
Here's an example. About, was it 6 weeks ago, vandals got into our wire down along Lenore K. Sullivan. It cost us $6,000 to hire a contractor to replace that. 2 weeks after that, they did the same thing again, and we don't have the $60,000, so those are going to remain out. The other one, they stole all the wire along East Bridge, so lights on East Bridge are out, and we're working with people to see if we can get that straightened out. That's just an example of what these guys do daily.
Yeah.
Okay, towing.
Towing. So there was a recent news article and a recent audit done that showed $80,000 of cash that was missing from the towing division. Last year, or maybe the year before that, in a conversation with the streets director, we were told that the streets department and the towing division was not accepting cash anymore. So this was news to me then that cash had been accepted and then also went missing. I realized that you're new, not new to this job, but new back on the job. And this might not be something that, you've had a chance to dive deep into, but I was wondering what you could tell us about this missing cash at the tow lot, as well as the missing $500,000 in vehicles that disappeared from these tow lots. Is that accurate? Is the report not correct, or what's going on with that?
We disagreed with the audit, and we're working with the mayor's office to get some sort of response. The amount of cash they collect on a daily basis is about $500. And the next day, we have a contractor, security firm, brings it down to City Hall. So where they found $80,000 in cash, we don't know, but we are looking at that to come up with an answer.
Okay.
Now, your other question is about $500,000 in what?
If you could speak more to the mic also.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You good? You're fine.
Vehicles that apparently went missing that were worth about $500,000 in total. It was in the same news article that talked about the missing $80K in cash.
I'm not familiar with that at all. I can look into that and see what that is. I didn't know there were vehicles missing.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually misstated it. It said the audit found 568 of 1,133 total vehicles were missing from the city's tow lot inventory, a fiscal loss of $4,900,094. Yeah, so almost $5 million.
Yeah, I'll look into that. I don't believe it, just coming right out, but it's hard to steal 500 cars. It really is.
Yeah, that would also surprise me, and it strikes me as more of an issue with maybe
Accounting?
Yes, missing
Paperwork.
incomplete records is what
I-
I think would be a more likely kind of Occam's razor approach to
Yes.
that.
If you ever dealt with an auditor, you know how that works, don't you?
Yeah. Would appreciate any additional info you can find on that, because
Yes, sir.
that is concerning. And you had said the tow lots, and this is something we often hear as older people here, is that the tow lots are full, and so we can expect that the vehicles that are abandoned on the streets right now may not be able to be towed because we don't have space to store them.
Correct.
I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to the process by which we tow vehicles, they end up in the lot, and then we get rid of them, because it strikes me we clearly need to get more room in these lots, and the answer is not to get more lots because we don't have infinite storage space. We are a city with defined limits, and I want to make sure that we are able to tow these cars, because I'm sure all of us get complaints about this constantly, and I can think of at least 3 in my ward right now that I'm just looking around that I've seen for the past several months sitting on the street. Some of them in illegal places too. I mean, there's a car on Manchester Avenue right now with the tow sticker on it. Mirror's broken off. It's been sitting there. It's not in a parking spot. It's actually over the line, slightly in the lane, impeding the right of way. And yet it's been there for, I think, at least 3 months. You're saying it's likely to be there a little more.
Yeah, I don't know why it was there for 3 months. That don't sound right, but yeah, we have to try to notify the owner of the car that we got towed. It's kind of a legal process. I think we got to hold it for like 30 days before we can do what we have to do. Now, we get the complaints from Citizen Service Bureau and the police is where we get all our complaints.
So can you speak to the process a little? So it's towed, it goes to the lot. What's the process then? I don't understand. I don't work in this field, so I don't understand exactly how it works. Is there an option to crush it? Is there an option to move it somewhere so that we can tow more cars?
Yeah, we have to hold it for I don't know how many days. It's a lot of the legal process that go through. And every Thursday then, the ones that get freed up, police have got to check them. And every Thursday they have an auction. And a guy comes in and we get about $150 a junk car. And then they take them out and I guess they scrap them or whatever they do. But that's how we get rid of the derelict cars.
All right, thank you. That's helpful. That's the questions I have for that. The last questions I have are for refuse.
Come on up, Rand. Oh, this is no more trash in alleys. That's our goal.
No more trash and out. I love to hear it.
If you just state your first and last name for the record.
Randy Bridenfeld, Commissioner of Refuse. So good morning, everybody. I just got a couple points I want to talk on. So I had all my fun last year with my budget, and Paul worked with me, got me everything I need, so I had minimal changes this year. I just asked for one additional position. That was an administrative assistant. As far as recycling goes, yeah, so what I proposed to the mayor's office is, like Jim said, 60% of the stuff that we collect out of the alleys is contaminated. So we're paying $185 for that, and it's going straight to the landfill. So what I proposed to Mayor Spencer was that eliminate the alley recycling, and I'll fill in all the voids around the city. Roughly right now we have about 30 drop-off sites. I'll just fill in those voids, maybe add 15, 20 more, and then I can just dedicate 1 or 2 drivers, to pick those up daily, and that would free up a lot of other drivers to hit the alleys. When we designed the alleys way back in the 80s, before single stream recycling was, the way we designed it was 1 dumpster services 4 residents, but that was on the assumption that we would be picking up trash 2 times a week in the alley. When the pandemic struck, we added single stream recycling. We were short on drivers. That really hindered us by getting down the alleys twice to get the solid waste. So I think if we can go to the single stream drop-off sites, that would make a huge difference. And I know that Operation Brightside, they've delivered lots of in-home recycling bins to a lot of residents, so the transportation to the drop-off sites should not be an issue for the majority of the people. I wanted to talk also, another point I brought up, I have a refuse route and safety coordinator in my budget that I have had no luck getting filled. And this person I would really like to use to audit the city's opt-outs. We have like 8,700, 9,000 people that opted out of city services. And I would like to use this person to go out, and I got a list of every address in the city that opted out. I would like for him to go out there and verify that they have some kind of private container in place if they are not paying for city services. Excuse me. What we see a lot now is when people call up and request roll carts, the first thing we'll do is look on and see if they're paying for city services. The majority of these people are not paying for services.
And
So
can
I
you
know
state the
that-
name of that position again that you're requesting?
That would be refuse route and safety coordinator. Right now, there's only 30, it's budgeted for like $34,000. I'm not going to get anybody for that position at that price. So I did ask Department of Personnel to do a job study on that years ago. Still haven't heard anything back from that. But if I could get that position filled, I could go out and audit every one of these opt-outs to make sure that they have something in place.
Okay, well, we'll be talking to the personnel department later today, so we can certainly ask them about that.
Good deal. And
I-
then my last point real quick,
Yeah.
and then I'll answer any questions, was illegal dumping in the city. Right now, I got my bulk crews working on legal dumping. I got the debris crew with the street department. I also hired a private contractor with some ARPA funds to help us with legal dumping. What they're telling me is they'll go out, I'll get a bill for $30,000 that they went out and cleaned all these alleys up. And they'll tell me within a week, it looks like nobody ever touched them. So what I proposed to the mayor's office was, it's usually the same people that come back and do this over and over again. Why not take their vehicle? A fine's a fine, but if they don't pay the fine, they're still gonna come back and dump. If they don't have a vehicle to dump, that
So-
should solve the problem. It's mostly the same people over and over and over again doing this to our alleys.
And when you say it's mostly the same people, who is the culprit here? Is it contractors? Is it?
It's everybody. I mean, we just busted some contractor, some plumbing or, interior contractor that came over from East St. Louis, and he was in our alley just trashing it. We got pictures of him and everything.
Yeah, because I know my neighbors aren't getting a toilet every week, so
Yeah,
I'm always
I mean-
surprised when. Yeah,
How much bulk do you set out in a month? I mean, in a year, how many times? Maybe a couple items, right?
yeah.
I mean, when you see just piles behind people's houses all the time, that's something.
Yeah, and
That's what I proposed.
that's a problem I know that really plagues areas of our city, that neighborhoods, especially that have a lot of vacant lots, and when there's not eyes on the street or there's not people driving those alleys routinely, they tend to see more illegal dumping. And the worst place I've seen it, I think, is right at the city limits in Wells Goodfellow, where people clearly are just going right over that line and then unloading what looks like an entire box truck of junk.
Yep.
Which is just sad for the residents of that neighborhood, but also for your workers who have to continually respond to that. So would love to do whatever we can to help you
It's
with that.
frustrating when we clean a whole alley up and like we touched it, so.
Yeah. And I'll emphasize to neighbors who may be watching that you can always help the refuse division by cleaning up your own alleys. If it's small items that are able to be picked up, I purchased a garbage shovel a couple of years ago, and it's been my most used tool by far because 5 minutes of my time and I can keep my alley clean. It is worth it if you can do it, and it makes everyone's life better.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other comments, or can I ask a couple questions?
No, those are the three main points I wanted to talk about, so, yep.
Well, thank you. So just have a couple questions for you. One is in the line item detail on page 246 for per performance, you asked for $200,000, but you only were given $100,000. Is that going to be a problem? And what would that additional $100,000 that you asked for be used for?
Let me grab. Can't see anymore. Okay, what was that? What was that line item?
Page 246, it's per performance.
I don't have per performance in my budget.
It's account 511-200.
511, 200, let me look.
What page you on? What page you on?
246.
I don't see a, wait, here we go. Do you not see a 511? Oh, here we go, salaries per performance employees. Well, they're proposing 200 is what I'm seeing in mine. I asked for 2 and that's what they're proposing.
Okay, I'm seeing that you asked for 2, but they only proposed 1.
Yeah. Change it on us.
Yeah, I'm showing we requested 2 and they gave us 2.
These guys do what? Tell them what they do.
Oh, there's the ENA version?
Those are just our.
So you probably have the ENA in front of you, the ENA budget. After ENA voted it out, the changes, there was a new document probably presented. And in that, Alderman Browning's correct. You requested 2, but ENA only approved $100,000 for you.
Thank you.
It's halfway down the page.
So in that case, I'm glad I brought it to your attention. We will.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had per performance employees forever in our budget. I think, I don't know, Ken, how long's it been?
Maybe this will help. Yeah, Jim, if you can come up and answer, that would be helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Don. I'm showing right here.
What's yours? Where's yours? Randy?
I didn't.
You didn't record. You didn't
Throw a wrench in there.
I don't ever mess with this kind of stuff. I don't know how that got in there.
It may have just been a copying issue. Let me take a look at it. I'm not 100% sure. So there just may have been an issue with copying over on the BD1 and the BD4,
Yeah, because the only,
because this is, E&A didn't make any changes. So the budget submitted to E&A and then the budget submitted to the Board of Aldermen should be the same. So let me take a look at it. It's more than likely a copying issue when we copy these columns over. So
Okay, but you were just saying you don't have per performance employees, so
I haven't had per
If
performance.
you could get it up in the mic, that'd be helpful.
I have not had per performance employees for, I can't even remember last time we hired any.
okay, well, we'll work that out. Again, I just looking at this, trying to figure out if you need money elsewhere, for instance, for the position like you mentioned, what can we say, hey, we can find money here and move it over here to fill a need. So want to help however we can.
Yeah.
Last question, a couple more questions for you. In the revenue book on page 11, there was a decrease over the last 4 years in refuse collection fees. This is another case where back in 2022, we had over 20 million, and it's just been steadily, well, I mean, actually, 2023, it just drops down to about 16 million, and it's just kind of hung out there since. What would be the reason for that drop?
That's a good question. That's why I would really like to do an audit and see.
That position would really help with that. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Because that when you talked about that, it struck me that maybe when you talk about the opt-outs, that could be an explanation. Maybe there's more people that are opting out. Maybe larger apartment buildings that are being built and then don't use city refuse services. So there's all sorts of
when we initially kicked off the single stream, or when we did the trash fee, we gave everybody the opportunity to either stay with refuse or opt out. And since then, we kind of changed our rules because we had too many buildings, 100-unit buildings that were wanting city service, and we just can't put 30 dumpsters or 200 roll carts like that. So we kind of put our limit at 6 units now as far as city services. Anything over that, we require them to get their private hauler.
Okay, that's
It's just not feasible to put tons of roll carts at these places, lots of dumpsters.
yeah. I know that there had been some chatter about potentially shifting to roll carts under the previous administration for everyone, and I was one of the people who strongly pushed back against that because not every place in the city.
Right.
Roll carts don't work. For instance, like I live in a row home. A roll cart doesn't work in that situation. Also, in neighborhoods that have a lot of roll carts, I've noticed that the sidewalks are often inaccessible because people end up leaving their roll carts smack dab in the middle of the sidewalk. So I'm sure there's a solution there that we can figure out together. But
So I am working with the outside contractor, Generation Solutions, and what they're going to be looking at is areas that are a lot of blight, vacant areas where we get a lot of legal dumping in alleys where you have a lot of vacant houses, maybe only a couple residents. So we're going to look and maybe converting those areas over to carts.
all right, that would make sense. And
Just areas where we see a lot of vacancy, blight, legal dumping, where we
Yeah.
know it would make a big difference.
what about the use of cameras? I've heard from the police, I think, that they sometimes will put up cameras to catch illegal dumpers. Is that something that's still being used, and is that something that you do in coordination with the police?
Yes, I work very closely with the EIU detectives, and I think we got about 275 of them out there. The real-time cameras now is what they're purchasing. I think the biggest issue that they tell me is, a lot of these illegal dumpers, they either they either put something over their front license plate or they just remove it altogether. So it's kind of hard to capture, that's pretty much how they bust these people. But yeah, I can send you a report. He just sent me a report the other day about all the summons they issued and arrests and all that. So if you'd like to see that, I can definitely forward with.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah, I
interested.
work real close with Detective Zermule.
That's great. And you don't anticipate any change in that, even though the state control and all that, you think that should be fine to continue that relationship?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It just emphasizes again, I mean, every time a department comes, I hear departments talking about how closely departments work with each other, including the police, which is a city department for all intents and purposes. And yet, this isn't the place to get into it. But I think that speaks to how just interconnected all of this is. And we certainly appreciate those relationships because we know that when you do that kind of work and have those good relationships with other departments, you're able to achieve much better results for our residents.
Absolutely. Yeah, I probably on a daily basis, I'm in communication with the EIU detectives.
Well, thank you so much. All right, that is the last question I have for you. Except I just have a general question, which is when we see car crashes around the city on our streets, something I've been noticing is there's often a lot of debris left behind. I've given it a nickname. I call it carnage because it comes from cars, and I'm making a pun. But the point is that it remains on the street until the street sweepers come by and maybe pick it up. Is that something we have a position for right now, like accident or crash cleanup?
When I get those requests, I just usually have my bulk guys go out and clean it up.
Okay, so it kind of falls into that.
Yeah, pretty.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I don't get very many of those. I think I've only had a couple of those requests this year, but yeah, we just act right away and we'll go get it.
Appreciate that. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions for you all. I really appreciate the time you've taken. Again, this is one of those departments that I feel is super important to the operation of our city, not just because it includes critical services like refuse, but also just the quality of our streets and sidewalks is important to keeping people in our city, to making people feel safe, and for our ability to grow in the future. So my hat is tipped to all of you. I think you all are really a critical part of the city, and I want to make sure that you get everything you need to do your jobs well. Thank you.
Alderman Devoti?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've got just three subjects that I wanted to cover. And Commissioner Breitenfeld, if I could maybe start with you, since you were standing up still.
Okay.
Really, this is meant more for me in terms of education. I know you and I spoke this past Friday in terms of or in the context of Ward Capital. And I know that there was a request for a certain amount of funds for container replacement. I'm looking at the proposed budget, and I know there was a request and an allocation, a proposal of $900,000. And if I did the math right, that covers about 640 or so dumpsters. They run about $1,400 a piece, do they not?
I think it's closer to like 1,100.
1,100.
Okay, you're close, yep.
Fair enough. I probably, I get made fun all of the time for my terrible handwriting. I probably couldn't read my notes. In any event, if you could remind us from a budgetary standpoint, how many dumpsters roundabout we have spread throughout the city?
About 36,000.
36,000. And so in our budget, and I know my math was bad, but even at 1,100, we're talking what, roughly about 700, 750 replaced within the budget on an annual basis. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, you're talking about the 900,000? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I asked Paul about that, but I asked him if I could get that increase last year in my budget, but I think I don't know what that has to go, because that all comes out of the trash fee money. So I think that's just like a fixed number. So that's why I depend on the alderpersons for the other 2.1 or 1.9 mil that I need in my budget.
Sure. And that's really what I wanted to ask you about. I mean, we've got some money allocated in the budget for dumpster replacements, but that doesn't come close to what you and your department need to do on an annual basis, right?
Correct. Yep,
Uh,
that's
it-
why I have to, that's why I request 140,000 from every alder person. That gets me to about 2.8 mil, what I need.
In my memory is that an average dumpster will last for about 10 years. In other words, it's got a 10-year shelf life before it must be replaced, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page or my information's good. So I appreciate the clarification on dumpsters. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for what your folks do. I know it's a tough job and
It is a tough job.
it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Director Sulman, it's been very many years. I'm sure you don't remember me, but we met probably 20 plus years ago, and I was a young lawyer, and I was taking your deposition one story up in a sidewalk case. Even 20 years ago, we had an issue in the city of St. Louis with respect to keeping our sidewalks up, right? I mean, we've been battling this issue for many, many years. And I know it's not for a lack of trying. I know that your department does what it can do to keep up with our sidewalks. But I know that on an annual basis, there aren't the funds available to catch us up. We had a similar discussion earlier this week with the folks at Forestry. You know, the idea that there's constantly deterioration. And that's just something we've got to do on a year-to-year basis. I know the funds aren't in this budget, but let's talk hypothetically for a moment. Let's say the city of St. Louis had a fund that it could tap into to catch us up on what would be needed to address every broken, uneven sidewalk that needs assistance. If a fairy was speaking in your ear, Mr. Flake, and said, "Give us your best day," from a budgetary perspective, what do you need to address those sidewalks that need attention? What would you tell the fairy?
We talked about this morning, so it was a good timing.
I hope somebody has a calculator. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this all in my head. But we currently have about 3,000 to 4,000 locations on our sidewalk list that are reported.
You said 3,000?
3,000 to 4,000 that are just reported. That's not the ones that aren't reported. So you could probably double that number easy. And then you have a sidewalk, average property's 40 foot by 5 foot, so you got 1,200. Average price of a square foot of sidewalks between $15 and $20. So you're 1,224, $3,000 for one residence, something like that.
I think, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think you were telling me when we spoke this last week, I think you and I kind of did the math, and the suggestion was on average, when you replace a section of sidewalk, again, on average, it runs about $4,500.
That's correct.
Okay. And so we've got 3,000 to 4,000 reported sidewalks. In other words, somebody has reported to the city, I think there's an issue. And on average, it's going to take $4,500 to address that.
That's correct.
So we could do the math and figure out, and again, I know that's way beyond our annual budget, but again, if the city happened to have a fund where it could tap into, that would give us the math to get back to square one.
That's correct.
Is that fair? Okay. I appreciate you listening to me in the math. One question I do have, Mr. Flake, while you're up at the dais. And Alderman Browning made reference to the recent utility coordination bill. And as far as I can tell, it seems like things are moving relatively smoothly. I know outside of my office on the Hill, Spire has done a handful of work recently. They've punched holes, and there has been a progression of coming back, doing a temporary repair, and then doing permanent repair. So it looks like things are moving smoothly moving forward. But as I drive around in South St. Louis, I went down to Southampton last night for a neighborhood meeting. I passed over, goodness knows how many steel plates that are in the roadway, that have been in the roadway for years. Does our budget address how we go backwards to deal with these steel plates from most probably utility work that was done and not addressed? How in our budget are we addressing those long-standing issues?
Typically on those just become brought to our attention one way or another, and we'll actually go out and pick up the plate. Sometimes there's nothing underneath it. Perfect pavement underneath it. And in that case, we just grab the plate. Other times we figure out that the good thing about holes is if there is a hole, you can usually figure out why it's there. So in a lot of cases, we'll grab the plate and figure out AT&T or somebody else was digging here, and they may have pulled their contractor, something might have happened, or the job got delayed, and then they forgot to pick it up for 3 years. So typically on those, once they're brought to our attention, we will go grab that plate. We'll look and see if there's a Missouri 1 call first over the last year for that location, so we can kind of start to pin it down. Then we'll grab the plate, see what's underneath it. And then on the inspection side, out of the director's office, and we'll start to follow that trail and see where it leads us.
Okay.
It always leads us somewhere, and it usually finds a conclusion fairly quickly, but it's just getting to that point and actually knowing about it.
So it sounds like this particular issue is something that is handled on a need-to-handle basis by your department as it comes up. In other words, there's nothing in the budget proactively let's get ourselves caught up on this too.
That's correct. And the biggest problem with plates are we don't live there. So we don't know. We drive over a plate. We're not really going to think that, oh, this thing's been there for 6 years. Somebody who lives on that corner has been hearing that plate rattle for 6 years. And that's the kind of stuff we need to know. I drive over plates all the time. I couldn't tell you how long they've been there. I don't really think about it until you run into a resident that has been listening to that going kerpow, kerpow, kerpow at 3 o'clock in the morning for the last X amount of time. And of course they want to bring it up, and I don't blame them, and they should. And the other side of that is they do get brought up whenever somebody's currently doing construction out there, and that plate's been there for 1 day, and it reaches a level up here. It's like, come on, you have to be able to handle a little bit of inconvenience for 2 or 3 days while they replace the water line, the sewer line, whatever it might happen to be.
And to be clear, and I don't mean to pick on you, I'm not talking about those plates that have been there for a handful of days or weeks. I'm talking about the ones that have been there for quite a while. I know we're short on time, so I don't want to belabor things. Before you sit down, I do want to thank you, though.
You're good on time, Alderman.
Oh.
We got them to about 11:30. We scheduled 2 hours, and it was an important one.
Well, you never tell a lawyer that. We just keep talking, right?
Or a politician. If you're both.
Well, now I'm both. But I do want to thank you. I've been in office now for 30 days, and I think on day 2, we had the first of 4 alley cave-ins in the 5th Ward. I think you were one of the first folks that I called and said, you got to educate me. What's going on? How do we handle this? Help me walk through this so I can talk to this constituent. And I just want to say I truly appreciate your direction, your education, and even more than that, you and your department getting on those alley cave-in problems. I have heard from 3 of those 4 folks. The issue has been resolved, and they are happy constituents. And the 4th, I believe we have scheduled to get taken care of next week, if I remember right.
I believe so.
So, in my mind, that's exactly wonderful city service on going all the way around. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Director Sulman, if I could just ask one more thing, because I'm not going to use it. tremendous amount of time. I know on page, I think it was 228. Yes, this is under Traffic and Lighting Division. Major project contracts and services, there was a request of $4.5 million, budget proposed $0. Can you educate us, what is that line item?
Do you know? Okay, good, good.
All right, so major projects is we're looking for funding to finally replace and upgrade traffic signals throughout the city, and it's for designing and replacing was 2.75 million, and that'll get us about 13 of those done a year. 13-year replacement plan, sorry, 10 signals a year, engineered and built. The other part of that is for a striping and signing plan inventory that was federally required back in 2014 that the city is not compliant with, that the law office has actually said we desperately need. So our previous commissioner before Len, Jamie Wilson, asked for this previously also and was denied previously.
So we're talking in terms of replacement of electric signals and
Correct.
federally mandated striping of roadways.
Well, the striping and signing both. An inventory of, say, like Kings Highway, how many lanes is it in each direction, how many travel lanes, how many turn lanes approach. But it's also stop signs for, to make sure that stop signs are equal to the reflective grade they're supposed to be after a set amount of time, where they're actually located at every stop sign, every one-way sign, every regulatory sign.
So again, similar question that I asked Mr. Flake, if the city happened to have a fund that it could potentially tap into to get things caught up, and a ferry was over your shoulder asking, what kinds of things would you use to make a one-time investment to catch these things up? This would be the kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Nothing else. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back it up a little bit, going back to Alderman Browning.
Hello, it's me again. Sorry. I just had one more question that a colleague texted me and wanted to make sure I asked. So right now there is a fee that recovers recycling that people pay. If we move to drop-off sites, is that fee going to change?
What do you think, man? No.
No, and that fee goes towards covering the drivers to pick that up, and I'm just assuming that the cost to process the recycling, and so the logic is that even though it's moving how we're doing it, that fee will still apply so that we can still process that recycling.
That's right, Brent. Go ahead.
I think that $14 a month is just for all refuse services. I don't know if it breaks out recycling separately. I think that was a misconception when people got the extra $3 a month. They thought that was just for recycling, but that's just for all of our services.
Okay, so it's not really separate. Yeah, it's something we often hear. If they're just going to throw the recycling in the trash, why are we getting recycling? But
Yeah.
$14
$14 recycling, trash, yard waste, bulk, drop off. I mean, citizen dump, everything.
Okay, that's helpful, and I will pass that on to residents. Similarly, and kind of on a similar note, from our ward capital balances every year, we're asked for money to replace dumpsters. If the alley dumpsters no longer include recycling dumpsters, will that amount that's requested go down?
It should, yes. I mean, my plan would be to eventually, weed out all the alley recycling dumpsters, but that's gonna be a process. So yes, that definitely should bring it down a little bit for sure. I mean, you're talking 6,000 dumpsters. That's what, $600,000 or whatever.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, my plan is to eventually get you that money consistently and not have to come ask us for it, because we know that some alders don't allocate a lot of money or any money towards dumpsters, and yet they still need dumpsters, and we want to make sure that everyone gets city services no matter where they live in our city. So we do appreciate that.
And that's another reason why I'd like to get this route and safety coordinator in my budget, because when I had him, he could actually go out and survey all the dumpsters in every ward. So I could bring something to the table for each alderperson and say, this is exactly how many you got bad in your ward. And, you know, I had different allocation requests for each alderperson, but since I don't have that, I just kind of got to be consistent and ask for the same.
Well, we'll see what we can do to get you a position like that. And on a similar note, Commissioner Flake, I know that you've told me in the past that you could use someone to evaluate pavement conditions around the city, as well as a paving fund to make sure that we can take care of some of these major roadways. Right now, we have the American Rescue Plan Act money, and that's going to paving the major corridors. But I don't think in 10 years, and actually less than that, how long does an arterial road usually last?
8 years on average.
8 years on average. So 8 years from now, when Kings Highway needs to be repaved again, where's that money going to come from? And I know that it's not a pressing issue right now, but I like to think for the future. And so that's something else that I'll continue to fight for, because I think we need to have that consistent. And once again, I noticed you requested paving money and we're not given paving money.
Absolutely. And it is a concern, right? Because we have 1,100 miles of street. And yeah, Kings Highway is getting taken care of. That's what, 15 mile total out of 1,100 mile. So yes, the $12.6 million per year for the rest of all of our careers. Of course, I'll go up at some point as prices go up. Would start to pave things during their useful life. Many of you already heard this from me, but University of Missouri has a very good paving institute out there. There's other ones around. They know how long a street lasts. If it's asphalt, it's this amount of time. If it's this type of street, traffic volumes. We know how many square feet, square yards of asphalt we have. You break that out, it takes you to $12.6 million at today's cost. If we're not doing that, that's why we have 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 potholes a year. We take care of the root of the problem, we don't have to worry about all the Band-Aids. We kind of like Band-Aids around here, I think, but I'd like to get away from that thought. And we are going to, probably the next 20 days, we're going to have at least one ward that's got all the streets rated in it and see that data available. And then we can start to talk about how and what we do with that data. You know, just because a road, typically we rate on a scale 1 through 10. 1 is a dirt road, 10 is the most fantastic road that was just paved yesterday. Does it make sense? And many of us have talked about this already. Does it make sense to go pave the 1? Absolutely it does. But if there's no houses on that block, does it make sense? You know, what takes a priority? You know, if there's a new building going to be put there and we know about it next year, obviously we shouldn't pave that block this year. Let's wait for the building to get under construction. They're going to put a bunch of holes in the street and then go there. But once we have that pavement data, then everybody, the city can figure out what we're going to do with that and try to make some sense out of it. Without step 1, you can't think about step 2 as far as, you know, where's development going to be? Do we pave a street that has nobody on it? And that kind of stuff. But long story short, at the end of the year, if we're not doing somewhere near $12.6 million a year, our streets are going to keep going downhill like they have for the last 15 years. This started back with the economic crisis of 2008, 2009, where asphalt doubled in price, ward capital was cut in half. So that means we were doing a quarter of the pavement that we did in 2007. And it was like a light switch. It happened overnight. The residential street lasts 16 to 20 years. That's why we're seeing potholes in every street we have. And that's what we got to address at some point. And it needs to be soon, because just because we got some money for Kings Highway and Union and Grand, that's a very small portion of our road network here. And if we're not thinking about it now, we're just going to keep going down the same hill we are.
I think you said it really well, so I appreciate that. On that note, the American Rescue Plan Act roads that are being paved, just do you have a general update on that? I know that some contractors have taken over some of that duties, but how's that going, and how do we see that proceeding, and what can people expect to see out on the streets this year?
I really don't have much of an update on that. I know it's Board of Public Services handling the contracts. They've been rolling very well. I've seen a couple of them. The quality looks good. Don't really know their timeframes. I think they handed out kind of a snippet of what they assumed their timeframes were going to be a couple months ago. If you haven't seen that, I can probably get a copy of that. But I think that was provided. If not, I can get a copy of that and send it out. It kind of just shows ballpark timeframes that they assume that they're places.
Okay, that would be helpful, just so I can warn people, and let them know what the work's being done. Also, I think people are really excited for this, so nice to brag a little bit about what we're getting done. And the way you just described the issues that we're facing, Ward Capital, we know is not enough to pave roads. You're also not getting additional paving money, so we can't expect these streets to get better. So we can talk about, campaign agendas aside. If we want to make a difference out on our streets, we've got to find the funding and the personnel to get this stuff done. So we want to get you those positions, and we want to get you that money. If it's not going to be this year, we're going to try to do it next year and next year and next year until we can get this problem fixed.
I'm going to keep asking for it. I used to ask for it, and I gave up for a few years. Every year I'll be here asking for it.
Good. Yeah, and we'll keep talking about it until it's done. All right, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Just a few questions from myself before I pass it over to another colleague. Mr. Flake, if you want to stay up, quick question. On the ARPA kind of conversation that Alderman Browning brought up, is understanding that we have a timeline to get that money, we've allocated, but we got to make sure that the projects are done. Just so I'm clear, are we contracting? It sounds like we're contracting some of those projects out.
All the ARPA paving is being contracted out.
Okay, so that wouldn't. So that means knowing that like Alders have Ward Capital and some street lists, top five. Anywho, different conversation. But street lists that wouldn't take away from those side streets or other streets that are being requested.
That's correct. ARPA funding will, after the decision was made last year to go the 100% contractors on the ARPA work, this frees us up completely for Ward paving.
Gotcha. Okay. My question is, next question is for refuge. Hey, Randy.
Hey,
what was that position that you mentioned that would help you with that data to know where dumpsters are placed? What was that one?
that was the refuse route and safety coordinator. That was the same position.
And how long have you been without that position?
Since he retired, probably 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that's always one of my, I wouldn't say concerns, because, we definitely want to make sure we have dumpsters throughout the city of St. Louis. But, it's always interesting to know, if, allocating money for it, how do we, ensure that when resident asks, that, money is being put towards this, that there is an, equal amount of dumpsters being distributed throughout the city. I think a lot of us alders, don't mind sharing funds and making sure that these critical needs get taken care of. But how do we, go back within the ward and say, well, this block or this community should expect some new ones, understanding that maybe they've been damaged for a while. So just my comment on that.
With this person back in the day when I had him, he would go out and he'd cart, he'd count the number of carts, count the number of dumpsters. It would either be good, bad, or average, so we knew what needed to be replaced. So if I could get that position back in there, that would be great.
Gotcha. All right, I'll go to Alderwoman Sanye. Oh, you're fine. She may call somebody else up if you want to sit.
Actually, I only have a question for, I think, Mr. Randy, actually. Sorry. Thank you for all of your work.
Okay, you're welcome.
And do you know the average cost per dumpster?
Yeah, we basically just use about a standard dumpster's 300 gallon, 400 gallon. It averages around, I'd say if you averaged them both, about $1,000.
Okay. This may be more of just noting the process for the public, because I think this process is not something you have power over. But what is really interesting to me right now is that the way that trash cans work is it's up to alders to fund them out of the ward capital that's specific for our wards, but then trash cans and dumpsters are just a citywide resource. So whereas one alder might have not funded anything from the refuse department for additional dumpsters, and another alder might fully fund it, we're kind of still cross-funding things. I don't want to see a situation where constituents don't get those basic services that they deserve, but I do think it's important to put some of these things on record. I know my request for this year was like $140,000. Don't have a problem with that, but I do think it's interesting that I could fully fund that. And then a colleague of mine could give nothing, and all of our residents, even though each of our ward capitals is for the needs of our communities, still pull from the same pool. I don't know what a solution to that exactly is, but I just think it's important to kind of note those issues, especially in reference to Alderman Browning's comments about just some of the challenges with these things being funded for more capital.
I have to say, though, all year are really good to me and usually give me all the requests, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Other question here? None for Kent or? Okay. Unless the chairman of public infrastructure, you got anything else? He took all the great questions. But it sounds like we have no other ones. Director, I want to appreciate you and welcome back to the city of St. Louis. Glad to have you back as an interim. I think you're highlighting it as just interim, but thank you for taking the call to serve again and working with a department that's critical to the need, and just keep this committee updated on conversations and ways that we could be supportive when it comes to that new program with refuse of not doing the back and forth with recycling, because I think that would be something that could be very beneficial to all city residents in getting their trash picked up on time until we do a little bit education to make sure that folks know what's recyclable and what's not. So
Gotcha. I just want to say these guys are great. Without these individuals, the street department would be a lot worse than what it is now. And thank you.
all righty. Well, we are early for a little bit. We are going to go on a recess until 1:30. I'll take a motion to go on recess to 1:30. Moved by the Alderman from the 5th Ward, seconded by the Alderman 11:30. Make a motion that we go on recess to 11:30. Moved by the Alderman of the 5th, seconded by the Alderman of the 9th, that we are on recess.
Test, test. All right, we will now resume the Budget and Personnel Committee, or I'm sorry, and Public Employees Committee. We are going to be hearing from the Communications Division, and you are recognized at this time. Make sure it's on, I think. It should be green on the side there, on the very top of the mic.
On top.
Ryan will come.
It was kind of hidden. Okay, can you hear me? Great. Oh, hold on. About that. Okay, starting over. Thank you. Good afternoon, or good morning. I guess we're still in the morning. I'm Donna Brooks Sanders, and I am the Communications Commissioner for the City of St. Louis. And I was going to take just a few moments to give a quick overview about the Communications Division, because I know that we at least have one new alderman, and if you'll indulge me with that for just a moment. So the Communications Division is under the umbrella of the Public Utilities Department. And we have been around now for 33 years? 33 years serving the city of St. Louis. We operate the STL-TV, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week channel on Charter Cable and AT&T UVerse. But we also have some other platforms that are available for residents to be able to access the channel and all that we do. The Communications Division is also home to regulatory affairs for telecommunications. We handle all of the contracts and monitor all telecommunications companies and others, vendors who build in the city right-of-way on behalf of the Board of Public Service. And we have a small staff. We operate with a staff of about 13 full-time employees, and we have anywhere from 35 to 45 per performance employees who help us do the work that we do. We also offer a high school and college internship, and we do have members of the community who we give them opportunities to come in and volunteer. So the division is funded through cable franchise fees and what I call earned reimbursements. The primary goal of STL-TV is to deliver relevant and timely information about local government. We cover all of the Board of Aldermen meetings, from gavel to gavel. We cover all of the subcommittee meetings. We cover information about various city departments. We cover their events and information about the resources that they have available. We also have a marketing and creative services arm where we're able to work with some departments who may have funding for marketing. And so we are able to assist them in all aspects, from production of graphic design work to placing billboards, radio spots, ads, things of that nature. And I like to say that we're not just a cable-only channel. We are available on a number of different platforms that include, as I mentioned earlier, Charter Spectrum, Channel 992, and AT&T UVerse, Channel 99. We also have 2 YouTube channels that we manage. One is specifically for city programming, and then a second one is STL-TV. We average about 22,000 views per month on those outlets. We also have a streaming platform where folks can access us if they have a Roku or Fire TV or an Apple TV. You can also access us through your social media app that we have. So you can download an app and you're able to watch us on your phone or any other platform that you might have. And of course, you can catch us on our website at STLTV at stltv.net. On our regulatory affairs side, we're primarily focused on the oversight of the city right-of-way for telecommunications companies. So we negotiate the contracts on behalf of BPS, and then we oversee the process of permit intakes to field construction as well as post-inspections. It's the goal of our regulatory section to ensure that permits are processed within 30 days, and we work with other departments to achieve this goal. We also provide oversight of the small cell. You've heard of 5G, probably will be 6G soon, but 5G deployment throughout the city. And so that is deployed on city light poles. And so we currently have about 450 such poles throughout the city, delivering service to roughly about 65% of the city. And this section also represents the city if there are any cable-related service calls or low or damaged aerial cable incidents throughout city government. And we try to make sure that we're reaching that within a 1 to 2 business days response. So when I look at communications by the numbers, real quick, it just shows that, you know, I do STLTV coverage. We cover at least 38 Board of Aldermen meetings, 165 BOA committee meetings, 228 government meetings, that's other departments, other agencies. This year, we did about 43 mayoral press conferences, 65 department events, and I mentioned that we have a presence on YouTube. And under our regulatory affairs, we have about 400 right-of-way permits on average, 456 small cell permits that we manage, and about 21 contracts that we also manage. So this year, as has been for the last couple of years, we've been working with the Department of Health and providing them with services in terms of helping them to market various campaigns that they have about resources that are available. And so with that, we will continue to do that in the upcoming year. And we also look forward to the possibility of working with Slate. We've been in talks with the new director about being able to provide services to them around helping them to market jobs trainings, and other things that are coming up. In terms of our budget, one of the things that we have been trying to advocate for a number of years really has to do with pay equity. Many of our our full-time video production staff members are just underpaid. The starting salary for these positions is only $38,000. They're listed in our city's classification as entry-level positions. However, there is nothing entry-level about the work or the requirements of these individuals. They are all required, all of our staff is required to have a degree and extensive skills in order to do the job. And so one of the things, I guess, is a budget priority for us would be to be able to see an increase in those positions' salaries. I know the city recently did a study, and we've done a couple of studies on personnel, but really haven't seen that come to fruition to see it actually turn into anything meaningful for any of the staff. But in particular, when we're hiring these individuals, we're really hiring them at a very low salary. And that really needs to be adjusted and addressed sooner rather than later, because we're having difficulty holding on to individuals in these positions. And they do everything. You guys see the work that they do because they're following you here at these meetings in your neighborhoods. And there's a lot of work that's required to do the work that needs to be done. And so that's a budget priority for us. When I look at the overall budget, that's where the gap is. That's what's missing in our budget each year, is the ability to adequately pay staff. And that hopefully will be something that will be addressed in the coming year, but certainly would be something we'd love to see addressed in our budget this year or in future years to come. So I do want to give Andre Holman an opportunity to also speak about more specific to the programming side of things as it relates to the budget. Andre.
So I will keep my comments pretty much simple to the fact that our staff, which is a small television staff, when you look at broadcast television, most of our producers, they do everything from shooting, editing, lighting, producing videos for countless events, things that take place across the city of St. Louis. But I really would just reiterate the words from the commissioner. My focus today would simply be to have the members of the Board of Aldermen, but also the administration and the Department of Personnel to seriously look at the compensation of our video production specialists. It is truly a shame to have, and this is no disrespect, truly appreciate the work that the Refuse Division does, but to have individuals who have spent their time in college mastering a craft of video production and technology, come to the city of St. Louis and make less than a refuse truck driver. That is, I don't even know, we should be ashamed of that. These individuals cannot just come out of college and start working for the city of St. Louis. They have to have experience. And so I will say that the past administration had said that they would look into trying to do something in regards to giving our staff members, our video production specialists, levels of grade levels, I guess, in a sense, of video production specialists so that they could see some advancement, because these are people that have been working in the field for many, many years. And when you go to a Cardinals baseball game or a Battlehawks game or a concert, a lot of these individuals have to go and work extra jobs just to make just to make a decent salary. And it shouldn't have to be that way. Just because they're a part of IBEW Local 4 and Local 1, they shouldn't have to say, well, I need to go work this weekend to make up what I'm really missing on my full-time job. So that is truly my pledge to them, and I'm asking that the city of St. Louis seriously look into this issue with compensation for our staff. I mean, because they are our greatest resource. I mean, without them, there are no meetings that are covered for the city of St. Louis. The transparency wouldn't be there. And they work extremely hard. And I appreciate them because of what they do for the city. And so that would be my ask today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I will move to the committee to see if they have any questions. I'm not sure who we have with us, so I'll check online. Is Mr. Devotie online? Not seeing it right now, so I'll just proceed. I appreciate you all being here today. Alderwoman Saunier is online, I see now. So Alderwoman Saunier, do you have any questions for the Communications Division?
Yes, just first of all, thank you for all the work that you all do. I think every single one of us greatly appreciates it. I just had a question around the staffing for raising the pay. Is that a conversation that you have had with Director Paul Payne? And have you, as director, have you taken a look at adjusting for some of the vacancies to increase the salaries?
So no, I haven't had a conversation with Payne, Director Payne. I have had, and we have had conversations with personnel in the past. We just have not gotten, we brought these issues before. We obviously brought them to the previous administration last year, and we really did think that this year's budget that we're in now was going to reflect that, but it did not. And so we're here again, seeking that conversation. So we'll follow up, because there's been so much transition in personnel as well. We have not had a conversation of recent with Director Undersaw, but we have in the past brought this conversation to him. And I have not had a conversation with Director Payne, assuming that it really needed to go through personnel and or the administration to be able to make this happen.
Okay, that answers my question. I just, I think it's above this committee. I don't think we're allowed to make adjustments to salaries. That has to be set, I believe that through personnel, and sometimes it involves union conversations and things like that. So I just know some of the things that other departments are looking at, and something that might be a look at is when you all have those conversations to look at adjusted for your vacancies to raise the salaries, because I know often the pushback is like, where's the additional funds going to come from? And I do see some vacancies, so I just think it might be worth looking at. But I was just curious because we don't have the purview to adjust the salary rates.
Yeah, and we do understand that, but we do want to just kind of state our pain and make sure that, we have an opportunity to be heard. So we'll
totally agree. You should definitely put it on record.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my only, the only additional thing I would like to say is that, I don't know how to say this, but when adjustments are made within our budget to accommodate other additional departments that are added to the city, to city government, it's really almost like a slap in the face, because now you're telling me that we have the money to give these employees more money, but yet we're establishing new divisions or new departments, and the funds from the special fund, the communication division, is being used for those efforts. And so I would just ask that we would get the support of the Board of Aldermen, because it's obviously not enough for us to say anything. So if we could get the Board of Aldermen to help us move this effort forward, that would be tremendous, because we come here every year with the same song and dance. And so I just ask that if we can get that support, that would be enough. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions for you, but I think you've described really well what the communications division and STL TV bring to our city. And that is that we cannot have accountability without transparency. And we cannot have transparency if we do not have somebody to provide our meetings to the public, to shine that light on us, to give us opportunities to share. And it's not always about just covering everything, but it's also giving us opportunities and doing programming that educates and explains and helps people become more engaged with their government. And so that is exactly what we need. If you haven't had a chance to go to the STL TV Awards, I think it's a illuminating experience, because you get to hear about all the hard work that people do. And you also get to have a whole night where you get to appreciate them for that work that they do. So encourage people to check that out, as well as to try to be as supportive as we can. And I will work with my colleagues to see if we can provide some extra support to you, because we know that this stuff doesn't pay for itself, that this is very much a service that we provide. It's not there to make money for the city, it's there to provide a service. And people mix that up with government all the time. They think we should operate like a company.
Right.
But a company's job is to make money. We are here to provide service to our citizens. So thank you so much. I really deeply respect the work you do. I can also tell you, I find it invaluable to my work to be able to go back and watch our own meetings and be able to pick up on things that were said in the moment that I may have missed at the time, or just to remind myself what happened. It's historical record as well as transparency. So very much appreciate it. Alderwoman Velasquez just walked in. I will check to see if she has any questions. 1 second. Alderwoman Velasquez, do you have any questions for the Communications Division?
Thank you. I don't right now. I just want to echo.
You're not on here.
There we go. Just want to say thanks to you both. I had to take another meeting, so I understand that you still need higher salaries, and that's part of a key component of this. And I apologize for missing the presentation. As Mr. Holman knows, you both know, I started my first city employee email address and experience was with STLTV, so I appreciate the work that you've done and that how you've continued to create a legacy that is beyond the employees of today, and really built leaders in the communication space for a generation. So I know that last year when we talked about budget, we wanted to try and supplement it more. It still is a priority. I think we have to figure out a way to do that. And I don't know if you already said this, Alderman Browning, so I'm sorry if I'm repetitive. I think it's worth noting that we could not be as transparent if it was not for you all. And I just teased Joseph about it. I'm like, you're wearing a shirt that says you're going to smile the budget? See, you're laughing too. But we really couldn't, part of what I think that we've been trying to do with the Board of Aldermen, and I don't think we have been successful, especially compared to other bodies, is that we are able to be transparent, and because of the work that you do. And we know that you all come in here late for us, stay long and still smile with us. So I just want to say thank you, and I will read this presentation and talk to my colleagues, but the work you do is really important. I just want to share that and say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with that, I don't think we have any more questions. I want to thank you for being here today and really being here every day.
Yeah, all the time.
Thank you so much. Our next department that we're going to hear from is the Personnel Department. That will be at 12:30 p.m. So at this time, I'll accept a motion to recess until 12:30 p.m.
So moved.
And I will second that motion. Hearing no objection.